Hey friends, how's it going? My name is Gabby. Welcome back to my channel, and today we're gonna be doing the mid-year freakout book tag, which I don't do a lot of book tags on my channel these days, but the mid-year freakout book tag is one that I do every single year. It's actually one of my favorite videos to make at the midway point of the year because it kind of does it's like a little recap of all of my favorites of the year, my least favorites, like my most surprising, most disappointing, and all kinds of different fun things like that. I will have every year that I've done this tag before linked down below so you can check out the previous years, but I have so much fun with this tag every single year, so I can't wait to answer all of these questions. However, before we do jump into the tag, I just wanted to take a second to thank today's video sponsor, which is June's Journey. June's Journey is a free to download mobile game where you have to find hidden objects in these different beautiful, colorful scenes. It has a really interesting detective story, and it also has all of the glamour of the 1920s, which is super fun. So in this story, we follow the protagonist, June Parker, and she is on a quest to solve the murder of her sister, and she also discovers all of these different family secrets throughout the game. I love that this game has such a diverse cast of characters that are all very interesting. I also love how you can customize, remodel, and fix your mansion and your garden island. As a person who really enjoys, thriller and mystery books, I find this game so much fun to play. It's fun playing this game at the end of a long day when you just get to lay in bed, pull it up, and just get lost in the mystery. I just really love the aesthetic of this game. I just love the 1920s vintage glamour that it has to it, and all of the scenes are so colorful and so vivid, and I'm also just very invested in the mystery, which keeps me playing, and it's just a lot of fun and it's really relaxing to play. So if you're also a fan of the murder mysteries, I highly recommend checking out June's Journey. I will have the link down below in the description. You can click on it and check it out. It's free to download, by the way. Did I mention it's free? And I definitely think it's worth checking out. Thank you so much to June's Journey for sponsoring today's video, and now let's get into the book tag. Alright, so the first question in this tag is, what is the best book that you've read so far in the year of 2023? I love how this tag just gets right to the point. It just gets right to the hardest question to answer. But I feel like this year I have a very clear favorite book of the year so far. I feel like in past years I've always been like, well, it's gotta be one of these three. And now this year I'm like, no, it is this book, because it's gotta be Any Man by Amber Tamblyn. This book is one that is very not easy to read. It's not easy to read at all. This is technically, I think it's considered a horror book, even though the genre for this, I don't know exactly how I would personally define this. But in this story, we're following the victims of several different men who have been sexually assaulted by the same woman. This book, on the back here, it says that this book amplifies the complexities of sexual violence and the radical cost of survival. This book changes everything, and I would definitely agree with that. I feel like this book really shines a light on something important, which is men who have been sexually assaulted, and how as a society we just don't take that as seriously as we need to, or we try to make a joke out of it. The writing in this book is absolutely stunning. It is so gorgeous. The cast on this audiobook is really great because it's a full cast audiobook, and in this story we kind of get the perspectives of so many of her different male victims. This is just such a hard-hitting, gorgeous novel. I don't know what else to say about it. If that doesn't convince you to pick it up, I don't know what will. It's just stayed with me for so long. I read this in January and I still think about this book all the time, and I actually think I want to do a reread of it before the end of the year because of how much I loved it. Alright, question number 2 is the best sequel that you've read so far in 2023. I am not a huge series reader, so outside of manga, I don't really read a lot of series, but for this question I do have an answer because I read The Kind Worth Saving by Peter Swanson this year, which this book is actually the sequel to The Kind Worth Killing, which is one of my favorite thrillers of all time, and so I was very, very nervous going into The Kind Worth Saving because I love The Kind Worth Killing so much, and I was like, there's no way that this book is gonna live up to that, and because Peter Swanson lately has been such a hit or miss author for me, and more often than not he's been missing lately. But this book, oh my gosh, The Kind Worth Saving just knocked it out of the park for me, and I absolutely loved it. I do think it would be wise though, if you are interested in reading The Kind Worth Saving, I do recommend reading The Kind Worth Killing first. Not that you have to enjoy The Kind Worth Saving, but you will get so much more out of The Kind Worth Saving, I think, if you read The Kind Worth Killing first. It's not a totally traditional sequel, but there's some characters from The Kind Worth Killing that make appearances in this one, so I do think it would be beneficial for you to read the first book first and then to read The Kind Worth Saving. But oh my god, I love them both so much. I almost think in my head I might have enjoyed The Kind Worth Saving even more than The Kind Worth Killing, which is crazy to say because I've always considered The Kind Worth Killing in my top 10 favorite thrillers of all time. So for me to say The Kind Worth Saving may be even better, I don't know, I still have to think about it, but I love them both so much and that makes me so happy. Okay, question number 3 is a new release that you haven't read yet but you want to. Well, for starters, the new Riley Riley Sager. I don't know if the new Riley Sager will be out by the time that this video goes up, but it's coming out this month in June. So I definitely can't wait to read the Riley Sager. I'm actually gonna have it as my booktube pick for the month of July, so I'll be reading it in July. I'll probably be reading it during Summerween, to be honest. And then I would also love to read All the Sinners Bleed by S.A. Cosby. Oh, this one, I'm so excited for this one. I think I might also try to read this during Summerween. I don't know. S.A. Cosby is so iconic after Razorblade Tears. I can't wait to read more from him. And then there's also The Fiancé Farce by Alexandria Bellafleur. This is a female-female romance that I still need to pick up. It's from one of my favorite romance authors. And then the new Robin Harding is also coming out in June, so that's one that I'm hoping to read very soon. Oh my gosh, there's so many new releases always coming out that I'm so excited about. And then the fourth question is your most anticipated release for the second half of the year. And I think, oh my gosh, it's probably a tie between these two books. So one of them is going to be Midnight is the Darkest Hour by Ashley Winstead. This one's coming out October 3rd. And Ashley Winstead is the author of In My Dreams I Hold a Knife, which is one of my favorite thrillers of all time. And I feel like ever since reading that book, I've just always kept an eye on like whatever she's coming out with next. I think Ashley Winstead is such a cool author too, because she's mainly publishing books in the romance genre and like the thriller genre. So those are really like my two different niches, you know, like I'm so happy that she's publishing books in both genres. And so I can't wait to read her romance book that she just came out with, but then also this one coming out in October. Oh my gosh, I can't wait. And then I'm also really excited for Good Bad Girl by Alice Feeney. This one's coming out August 3rd. Dude, Alice Feeney has been hitting for me lately, so I'm really hoping that this one is going to be another successful read. And then number 5 is your biggest disappointment so far this year. I think I have 3 different books. I can't decide which one for me is like the biggest disappointment, but I think one of them that's got to be up there is Wonderland by Jennifer Hillier, which is unfortunate because this was one of my book troop picks from the month of January. And I think I'm mainly so disappointed in this one because it has so much potential and because I really thought this one could have been a new favorite, just because of how interesting it sounded and like the ideas in this book were so cool. Like the idea of a clown museum and like this amusement park called Wonderland. It was just, it had the perfect setup to be really creepy, and then this book just ended up being so boring. There were way too many characters. It was just so mediocre, and that is so disappointing to me, especially because Jennifer Hillier, she's such a hit or miss author, you know? I either tend to really love her stuff or really dislike it, and sadly this one was one that I really disliked that I should have loved. And then I also have very recently 19 Claws and a Blackbird. This was one that, oh my god, I had such high hopes for this one because it's the same author as Tender as the Flesh, which is a horror novel that I really enjoyed, and this one's a collection of 20 short stories. So I was like, oh my god, let's go, sign me up. Like, I love horror stories in the short story format like this, but this was so freaking boring. Like, out of the 20 stories, I only really liked 2, and then even those 2, like, they were fine. Like, I was not obsessed with anything in this collection, and that really broke my heart. It made me so sad. And then also The Drift by CJ Tudor. I cannot believe that this was a 1-star read for me. Like, I just did not like this at all. Like, I did not have a good time, and I'm so sad about it because CJ Tudor is an author that I do usually like a lot of their thrillers, so I was very surprised when I did not like this one at all. All right, number 6 is going to be the biggest surprise for you so far this year, and I think it's gotta be some of my recent reads, like, for example, The Last One by Will Dean. I think this is definitely one of my most surprising books that I read this year because this is a thriller that's coming out in August, by the way. This one is not currently published yet. I think it actually is published in the UK, but not in the US until August. But this one was so surprising to me because all we know about this book on the back, on the premise here, all it says is that we're following this woman who wakes up on this, you know, cruise ship, this huge ship boat, and she wakes up and finds that her husband is missing, and then when she walks out onto the main deck, she doesn't see anybody, and she realizes she's completely alone in the middle of the ocean on this ship, and that is literally all the premise tells you. And then that happens in the first like 12 pages of this book, and this book is like over 400 pages long, and you don't even get to really see what the real plot of this book is. Like, this book has the most wild plot, and it's so cool that the premise decided to spoil absolutely nothing for you, so I feel like it just makes this book very surprising the whole time. I had so much fun with this one. And then I also was very surprised with Our Share of Night. I think when I picked this book up, I was thinking in my head that it wasn't going to be something I would like, just because, I don't know, the premise just sounded like it wouldn't be my thing, and I was just worried about it. But then I absolutely loved this. Like, I ended up giving this one 5 stars. These characters have stuck with me for such a long time, and the writing is some of my favorite writing that I've read all year long. Like, it is just so atmospheric. These characters feel so real to me, and the horror in this book was also just so well done. I just had so much fun with this book, like way more fun than I thought I would. And I was also intimidated because of how long it was. I was like, oh, because like usually when books are long like this, I don't want to pick it up or whatever, but this book was so good that I really wanted to finish it as soon as I could because I was just loving it so much, you know? So I was surprised by how much I love this one. Question number 7 says a favorite new author, and whether that's a debut author or just somebody who's new to you. Now, these 3 authors that I want to mention, I've only read one book from them, at least this year, but I think Amber Tamblyn, after reading Any Man, she's an author that I'm definitely going to be keeping my eye on. I do think that Any Man was her debut novel. I think this one actually published in 2018, but I do think that she's published a poetry collection since then. Really want to read more from this author, and anything that she comes out with in the future, like I am definitely checking out, and she has definitely become a new favorite for me just with this book alone. And then another author is Ocean Vuong. I read On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous for the first time this year, even though I've had this book on my TBR for like literally forever. And last year I actually did read a poetry collection from Ocean Vuong, and I really liked the poetry collection, but then this book, holy shit, knocked it out of the park. Like, new favorite author. I'm definitely going to be checking out anything that this author publishes in the future. And then same goes for Julia Bartz. The Writing Retreat is maybe my favorite thriller that I've read so far this year, and this is actually this author's debut thriller. That is totally wild. I know for sure if Julia Bartz comes out with anything in the future, it's going to be like my most anticipated thing because I loved this book so much, and so she's already become a new favorite author of mine just from this book. Like, I'm so excited. All right, question number 8 is your newest fictional crush. I think this question is super cute, even though I don't really get fictional crushes the way that I used to with books, I guess. I don't know. But if I had to pick any fictional crushes that I've had this year or any love interests in a romance book that I've really enjoyed, I think I would go with Nick from The Neighbor Favor. He's definitely one of the ones that stands out in my mind because I love that he's an author. You know, like, I love that he writes his own books, and I loved the chemistry between these two in this book, and he was just so endearing as a love interest, and I just really, I don't know, I found him to be very memorable this year, so I would definitely say Nick is a fictional crush of mine. But also, most recently, oh my gosh, I'm about to spoil one of my upcoming vlogs because it's not even out yet, but oh my god, I recently read Yours Truly. Like, I literally just finished this a few days ago, and it's gonna be featured in one of my upcoming reading vlogs for this month. But oh my god, Jacob from Yours Truly, oh my god, he's the most precious little bean that I've ever read in my freaking life. I just love him so much. In this book, Jacob is a doctor, and he suffers from like really bad anxiety, like really bad social anxiety, and then just anxiety in general. I just connected to him so much because of his anxiety. Then also just the romance in this book was so, ooh. Oh my god, I love this one so much. Like, I know I'm spoiling an upcoming vlog, but I had to mention Jacob. Like, Jacob is so freaking cute. All right, question number 9 is your newest favorite character that you've read about this year, and this is also one that I have a few different answers for. Elizabeth Zott from Lessons in Chemistry is definitely one of my favorite characters that I've read about this year. She's like one of those characters that gives off major like Jo March kind of vibes. Like, she's just like a, you know, independent female, and like, I don't need a man, and I'm a freaking scientist, and I'm smart on my own, and she's definitely that kind of vibe in this book, and I just really loved this character. Like, I really loved this book because of how much I loved following Elizabeth as a character, and she's definitely one that has stuck with me throughout the whole year so far because I read this one in January. And I would also say when it comes to like thrillers, I actually really liked the character Emma in The Last Word. I know we always talk about how it's so like, it can be very hit or miss when male authors are writing female protagonists, especially when it comes to thrillers, but I feel like Taylor Adams does such a good job with it, you know, because Emma in this book, she's such a freaking bad bitch, and I just loved her character. I also found her to be very relatable at times, actually, because she would talk about like her different anxieties and her social anxieties and things she was going through in this book, and she's dealing with a lot of grief in this book for things that she's been going through, and I don't know, like, I just found her to be very relatable on a lot of different levels. But then also, you know, this book is mainly about how she gives a 1-star review for this guy who's an author, and then the author is just kind of unhinged, and things just kind of get very scary for her after that, where she's like living in this house and she feels like somebody's like trying to get in, and it's, you know, it's scary. It's very intense this whole time, but I just loved the way that she reacted to things, the way that she responded to things. I felt like she was such a freaking bad bitch. Like, she is how I aspire to be. And I also just love how she's always like trying to save the dog instead of herself. She's like, put the dog first, and I'm like, girl, same, like literally same. So I don't know, I really enjoyed Emma's character in The Last Word. And then I also, oh my gosh, I have to mention Something Wild and Wonderful here because this is a male-male romance that I just read last month and I absolutely adore both of these characters. The main protagonist in this one is Alexei and then his love interest is Ben, but oh my god, I love them both so much, but especially Alexei, like, oh my god. He's definitely a new favorite character of mine, and this is a book that I desperately want to reread again in the future because of how much I just adore them. Okay, question number 10 is books that made you cry this year. And I was looking through all the books that I've read this year, and unless I'm just like completely spacing and blanking on something, I don't really think there have been a lot of books this year that have made me cry out of the ones that I've read so far. But I think if I had to pick any, I think On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous is the thing that has the most potential to make someone emotional. I can't remember specifically if I cried. I think there was definitely a few scenes where I teared up a little bit, but I don't remember if I like cried. And then same with Any Man by Amber Tamblyn. There was definitely, I do remember there was one scene in this book that had me tearing up and really like made me emotional. But I don't know, there hasn't been a book this year that really, cause like when I think of like what books made me cry, like there are some books that have really made me like break down and like cry, like I couldn't even fucking breathe. Cough, We Spread from last year. And so I don't know, there haven't been any books like that for me so far this year, so like knock on wood, we'll see in the second half of the year. Just watch me be like bawling my eyes out after every book I read. Question number 11 says a book that made you happy. The books that made me the happiest to read this year, I mean, the Writing Retreat made me pretty goddamn happy because anytime that I read a thriller that I know is gonna be like a new favorite thriller and I can just feel that it's gonna be a 5-star read, it makes me really happy. Like thrillers are one of my favorite genres because I get such a rush from, you know, really enjoying a thriller, and so this was definitely that for me. Like this book just kept getting more and more unhinged the further that we got in, and it was just so interesting. Like this book just checked all of my boxes with what I'm looking for, you know? Like I love the secluded kind of vibes of like they're all going to stay at this manor and the manor is kind of weird, it might be haunted or something's going on there, and then all these women are writers and they're all competing against each other. It's just, the vibes in this book are immaculate, so freaking good. And so it just made me really happy to read this book this year. But then also as far as like maybe a romance goes, I really had a fun time with X's and O's. I feel like this is one of the romance books that made me more happy this year to read. I just think this was so cute and so wholesome, and I really loved the characters and their banter was really cute. And this is another one that kind of checks a lot of boxes for me because they're roommates, and we all know I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed with the roommates to lovers trope. It's one of my favorite tropes in romance, and so this was also one that just kind of had it all for me. Question number 12 says your favorite book to film adaptation that you've seen this year, and I kind of struggled with this one because I don't think, like out of all the books that I've read this year, I think the only book that I've read that even has an adaptation is One of Us is Lying. I'm pretty sure, I don't know, I could be wrong, but I don't really have any desire to see the TV show One of Us is Lying. But then when it comes to manga, I know there is a Spy Family anime that I have not yet seen, so like I could answer that, but I haven't seen the anime yet. But then also I did read Your Name, which is a manga, but the manga is based off of the anime movie, and I have seen the anime movie. I actually saw the anime movie first. I saw that last year, and then it made me want to read the manga series. And so I guess my answer for this would be Your Name, because I really loved Your Name. I actually preferred the anime over the mangas, but I do think, I don't know, it's like clearly I need to be watching some more adaptations. I do know that Lessons in Chemistry is actually currently being made into an adaptation. I think this adaptation is coming out later this fall or maybe later this summer. But otherwise, like I haven't really been reading a lot of stuff that's been adapted recently, I've noticed. How weird. Okay, question number 13 says your favorite review that you've written, whether this was for like booktube or like what, I don't know. I thought it would be a cute time for me to mention, I did an entire reading vlog dedicated to Happy Place by Emily Henry, and I had so much fun with that reading vlog because this book ended up being a 5-star for me. Like I really enjoyed my time reading this book, but I also just really love the way that that vlog turned out because it was so cute. I got to like go down to my local park, and then it started raining when I was in the park, and it was just like, it was a whole experience, you know, but I just really enjoyed that day when I read this book. It's a good memory in my mind, and I feel like it's one of my favorite kind of reading vlogs that I've made so far this year. So this one definitely definitely stands out to me. Oh my gosh, question number 14 says the most beautiful book that you've bought so far this year or that you've received this year. I think The Haunting of Alejandra is definitely one of the most beautiful books. I mean, look at it. I'm obsessed with like this orange background and then the flowers all on her face. I just think it's absolutely stunning. Like, this is definitely one of my favorite books that I own, just aesthetically speaking. Like, this is beautiful. But then I also wanted to say this 10th anniversary edition of Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe. I'm pretty sure my mom either got me this for Christmas or for my birthday. I can't remember now. So I think I did get this one this year. But this book is just so beautiful. Now that I have this copy, I really desperately want to reread it again because of how much I just love Aristotle and Dante. And I think I have read this book like 3 times or maybe 4 times, or I think this time that I read it would be my 4th time reading it. But I just love this book so much. It means so much to me, and this edition is just absolutely stunning. So like, huge thank you to my mom for gifting me this. I love it so much. All right, and the last question, question number 15 says, what books do you need to read before the end of the year? And like, I don't know what kind of question that is, because it's like, take your pick, right? Like, I literally have just stacks of books behind me on this shelf that are all books that are still on my TBR that I would of course love to get to before the end of the year. Some books that I've recently added to my TBR that I would love to get to before the end of the year include Death in Her Hands. This one was actually recently sent off my Amazon wish list, so thank you so much to Stephanie. I really appreciate it. This is one that I've been hearing about mostly from Kayla from Books and Lala, so after she talked about this book, I just put it on my TBR because I was like, this sounds kind of interesting. I don't really know too much about this. It just says a novel of haunting metaphysical suspense about an elderly widow whose life is upturned when she finds an ominous note on a walk in the woods. I don't really know what to expect with this one, but it sounds like it could be really interesting. I also recently just got Business or Pleasure, which this is by Rachel Lynn Solomon, who is the same author as The X Talk, which is one of my favorite romance books. And on the back of this one, it says a ghostwriter and a struggling actor help each other on the page and in the bedroom in this steamy romantic comedy. I cannot wait to read this one. Like, I might actually read it in the month of June. I don't know. We'll have to see if I have any self-control and see if I can wait. And then also, oh my god, I just got this one in the mail like literally today. The Spare Room by Andrea Bart. This is a new release thriller that I am just so freaking excited to read, so I'll definitely be reading this one soon. I'm hoping to read it this summer, probably in maybe late June, early July. I don't know when it's gonna happen yet, but I'm so excited to read this one because this is actually, if you didn't know, Andrea Bart, she's actually Julia Bart's sister. Like, they're sisters, and it's so cool. Like, I don't know why I didn't realize this for the longest time, but Andrea Bart, she's the same author as We Were Never Here, which was one of Reese Witherspoon's book club picks. And I did read We Were Never Here, and I thought it was just all right. Like, that one was like about a 3-star, maybe a 2-star. I don't know, I can't remember now, but I didn't love it that much. But the premise for this one sounds really interesting, and it's getting some interesting reviews coming in so far. So I'm really interested to check this one out, especially because like now knowing that they're sisters, I'm like, okay, that is very interesting. So I'm really excited for The Spare Room. I kind of like want to drop everything and read this right now. I don't know why. I'm just like, it's beautiful. All right, so that is the mid-year freakout book tag. I'm so excited to have done another one of these videos. I just love these videos, and I also love having them to look back on from previous years because I love to see what I was up to, you know, in previous years around this time and what my favorites were, my most disappointing and different things like that. You'll have to let me know what are some of the favorite books that you've read so far this year. What were some of your biggest disappointments? I would love to know your answers to any of these questions down in the comments below. Please don't forget to go and check out June's Journey. I will have a link in the description where you can download the game for free and check it out, especially if you're a murder mystery loving kind of person. I definitely think this is a game that you would really like. And that is going to be all from me today, so thank you so much for watching and for hanging out, and I will see you very soon with another video. Bye!